Listen closely, fighters. You possess strength, not fragility. You demonstrate capability, not indolence. Your problem stems from being too functional, too reliable. The reality unfolds like this. As your contributions increase, others consume more of your resources. When your automatic response becomes claiming everything feels acceptable, your personal limits begin vanishing completely. Eventually arrives that morning when awareness strikes hard, revealing nobody truly values your presence anymore. Instead, they have simply grown accustomed to extracting whatever they require from your endless supply. Pay close attention to what follows. Individuals consistently examine those displaying compassion. They apply pressure against reserved personalities, and they systematically abuse anyone they believe won't disappear from their existence. This message concerns that precise instant when such treatment terminates permanently. That specific moment when exploiting your nature transforms into something genuinely risky for those attempting it. Please share this declaration within the discussion area below. I select dignity and honor for myself. First critical understanding involves recognizing how continuous emotional depletion represents genuine authority bleeding away from your foundation. Perpetual availability for solving everyone's difficulties systematically destroys your command presence faster than virtually any other factor imaginable. When your identity consistently becomes the individual correcting mistakes, perpetually appearing without fail, constantly bearing everyone's burdens alone, you experience power drainage occurring every single sunrise without exception. This happens not because offering assistance carries inherent wrongness, but rather because you provide these services lacking any defensive barriers, devoid of stopping points, absent any calculated approach whatsoever. Your vitality becomes entirely foreseeable in its patterns. Others understand precisely what outcomes they will extract from your consistent presence. They comprehend you will manage whatever chaos emerges. They recognize complaints will never escape your lips. This absolute predictability systematically murders any respect you might otherwise command from those surrounding you. Consider water as an instructive comparison here. When liquid flows without restriction across every available surface, it demonstrates zero force whatsoever. However, when you direct its movement, when you regulate which direction it travels, suddenly it gains capacity for cutting straight through solid stone formations. Your personal energy operates under identical principles exactly. Scattered freely and accessible to every person requesting it, your force remains pathetically weak and ineffective. Concentrated deliberately and controlled with precision, it becomes absolutely unstoppable in achieving objectives. Maintaining emotional availability for absolutely everyone makes your behavior entirely controllable by external forces. When individuals comprehend they can perpetually contact you, perpetually depend upon your response, perpetually extract resources from your reserves, they cease perceiving you as genuinely valuable in any meaningful sense. Instead, their perception shifts toward viewing you as merely accessible, and accessible commodities never receive treasured treatment from anyone. That phrase, claiming fine status, becomes your mechanical reply to inquiries. Someone questions your current condition, and you produce this response lacking any genuine thought behind it. Even during periods of complete exhaustion, even while struggling internally, even when barely maintaining your composure, that expression functions as protective covering. Unfortunately, it constitutes paper-thin armor, providing absolutely zero real protection for your well-being. This constant declaration of acceptable status signals to every surrounding person your willingness towards silent self-destruction without complaint. It communicates your refusal toward creating disturbances. It announces you will never demand improved treatment. It promises you will never resist their demands. You will simply absorb everything thrown at you and continue moving forward regardless of personal cost. Genuine burnout does not originate from workload volume alone. Authentic exhaustion emerges from giving without receiving anything equivalent in return. It represents the weariness of pouring yourself outward for individuals who never reciprocate the flow. It means carrying everyone's weight while nobody notices your own struggle beneath the burden. Each instance of giving without corresponding receipt creates imbalance within the dynamic. This imbalance does not merely drain physical stamina from your body. It systematically drains your commanding presence and authority as well. Individuals cease inquiring about your requirements because they have learned you will independently handle your own affairs. They stop reciprocating because the established pattern has never demanded such balance from them. Energy distributed without control invites systematic extraction from others. When you make yourself accessible lacking boundaries, you essentially erect a sign declaring free energy available here, and individuals will take what you offer. Not because they possess malicious character, but simply because you have made the process effortless for them. A certain political philosopher once stated that humans are driven by two principal impulses, either by affection or by apprehension. When individuals experience neither affection nor apprehension in their treatment of your person, when no appreciation exists and no consequences follow their actions, you become invisible to them. Useful, certainly, but invisible nonetheless. The instant you begin controlling your energy distribution, everything transforms dramatically. When you become selective regarding where your effort flows, individuals notice the change. When you stop being accessible to everyone constantly, your perceived value rises automatically. Your emotional exhaustion does not indicate weakness whatsoever. It constitutes data, valuable information about your current situation. It tells you the present system lacks sustainability for continued operation. It informs you that giving without limits only creates takers lacking gratitude for what they receive. Next crucial understanding involves the nice person trap, where excessive kindness often conceals a strategy you have not consciously recognized. Deep within your subconscious mind exists an unspoken agreement. If I contribute sufficiently, they will value my presence. If I prove helpful enough, they will respect my boundaries. If I sacrifice enough of myself, they will finally recognize I matter substantially. However, you alone agreed to this contract's terms. The other party never signed this arrangement. They never promised to value you more because you gave more. They simply learned that requesting things from you works effectively, so they continue requesting. You believe you are building credit in some cosmic ledger. Every favor granted, every affirmative response, every accommodation made, in your mind you are creating a balance sheet. You are thinking they will remember these actions, they will appreciate what you have done, they will return the favor when you need them. But they do not, because in their mind this simply represents who you are naturally, the helpful one, the accommodating one. They are not keeping score because they do not see your behavior as extraordinary. They see it as normal, as your default setting. This is why the nice person trap devastates so completely. You are working from one set of rules while everyone else works from another. You are treating your kindness as currency, while they are treating it as atmosphere, as background conditions they simply expect. Respect cannot be negotiated through sacrifice alone. You cannot earn it by proving how much you will tolerate. You cannot buy it by showing how much you will give. Respect comes from clarity, from boundaries, from the understanding that your affirmative carries meaning because your negative exists as a real possibility. When you display niceness toward everyone without any discrimination whatsoever, your niceness loses all significant meaning it once carried. Individuals need to understand that your compassion represents a deliberate choice, not a guaranteed outcome they can always expect. The unconscious approval strategy feels virtuous on the surface level. You tell yourself you are simply being decent, simply being helpful to those around you. But underneath this surface explanation exists a hunger for validation, a need to be seen and acknowledged, a hope that all this giving will finally make you matter in their eyes. And when it fails to work, when people do not suddenly begin treating you better despite your efforts, the resentment builds steadily inside you. You start feeling used by those you help. You start feeling taken advantage of by those you serve. You start feeling bitter about the very kindness you chose to give freely. Unspoken contracts create silent resentment internally and public weakness externally in how others perceive you. You resent them for not honoring a deal they do not know exists in your mind, and you appear weak because you keep accepting less than you deserve without ever saying anything about it. The way out involves giving without expectation, or stopping giving until the dynamic is balanced. Genuine kindness expects nothing back. Strategic kindness that pretends to expect nothing creates poison accumulating in your mind over time. Please share this declaration within the discussion area. My value requires no proof whatsoever. Third, critical understanding concerns the reality that no boundaries, no consequences, no respect will exist in your relationships. Individuals will test you always, not maliciously necessarily, not even consciously in most cases, but they will push to see where the line exists. They will ask for more than they should reasonably request. They will cross small boundaries initially. They will see what they can get away with through experimentation. This represents human nature in action. We all test limits to understand the structure of our dynamics with others, and if no limits exist, we keep expanding our demands indefinitely. You establish a boundary clearly. You say you cannot do this particular thing, or you state this does not work for you personally, or you inform them you need them to stop that behavior, and they hear your words. They even agree verbally, but then they repeat the behavior again anyway, and you let it slide without consequence. Maybe you are trying to be understanding of their situation. Maybe you do not want conflict disrupting the peace. Maybe you are hoping they will respect your words without you having to enforce them with action, but they do not comply. Because without enforcement backing them up, boundaries are just suggestions, nice ideas, polite requests, not actual limits with teeth. When you set a boundary but never enforce it with consequences, you train people that your words are decorative elements without substance. They learn that you will say things but not back them up with action. They learn that pushing past your negative eventually gets them to affirmative if they persist. And once they learn that pattern, respect evaporates completely. Harmlessness is read as permission by those around you. When you are too flexible, too accommodating, too willing to give another chance repeatedly, people interpret that as weakness in character. They see someone who will not push back against violations, someone who is safe to exploit without fear. Respect only exists where loss is possible for the violator. People respect you when they understand that violating your boundaries costs them something tangible. Maybe it costs them your time going forward. Maybe it costs them your presence in their life. Maybe it costs them your help they depend upon, but there must be a cost attached. Without that cost creating consequences, why would anyone respect your limits seriously? If they can cross your boundaries and nothing changes in the relationship, what motivation exists for them to stop their behavior? Boundaries are not explanations requiring lengthy justification. They are not discussions open for debate. They are not 3-paragraph justifications defending your position. Boundaries are simple, clear lines drawn in the sand. This behavior is acceptable to me. That behavior is not acceptable. Cross this line and here is what happens as a direct result. A certain strategist once said, since affection and apprehension can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved in positions of authority. You do not need people to fear you as a terrorizing presence, but they absolutely need to respect the consequences of their actions toward you. Without consequences following violations, words have no weight behind them. You can repeat yourself forever into infinity. You can explain yourself in new creative ways endlessly, but until an actual consequence occurs for crossing your boundary, nothing will change in their behavior. The moment you enforce one real boundary with actual follow-through, the moment you actually implement a consequence for violation, people recalibrate their entire understanding of you completely. They realize you are not playing games anymore. They realize your limits are real and enforceable. And suddenly, everything changes in how they treat you. Your words start meaning something substantial. Your boundaries become solid instead of suggestions, and respect emerges naturally without you demanding it verbally. Fourth, critical understanding involves the monster in the garden concept, recognizing that goodness without strength is not virtue in its truest form. A good person is not a toothless person lacking all capacity for force. Being kind, being compassionate, being gentle. These qualities are only meaningful when they represent choices freely made. When you could do otherwise, but choose not to exercise that option. When you have the capacity for force, but exercise restraint deliberately. If you cannot be dangerous when circumstances require it, then your kindness is not a choice at all. It is just your only option available. And people can sense that difference immediately through instinct. True virtue requires the capacity for destruction held under control. Not cruelty as a personality trait, not random violence without purpose, not hurting people for fun or entertainment, but the real genuine ability to make things difficult for someone if you needed to do so. The ability to push back with force. The ability to create consequences that matter. This is what is missing in most people who get walked over repeatedly. They have cultivated kindness so thoroughly that they have eliminated their own teeth completely. They are so committed to being good that they have made themselves harmless to everyone, and harmless people get exploited systematically. Think about people you respect most in your life. They are probably kind, probably generous, probably helpful when needed. But there is something else there too underneath the kindness. An edge you can sense. A sense that you would not want to cross them carelessly. A quiet strength that says, I am being nice by choice, not by weakness or inability. That represents the integrated shadow aspect. That represents the monster in the garden. Controlled, contained, but very much present and available if needed. People sense when you cannot retaliate against mistreatment. They feel it energetically without conscious awareness. When someone knows they can do anything to you and you will never push back, never walk away, never create a consequence for their actions, they unconsciously categorize you as safe to exploit without risk. It is not a conscious decision on their part necessarily. It is survival instinct operating automatically. Humans are wired to test for power dynamics in relationships. We push boundaries to understand social hierarchies and where we stand. And if pushing someone reveals they have no capacity to push back with force, we file them under no threat in our mental categories. Power comes from contained aggression, held under deliberate control. Not unleashed wildly, not wild without direction, not random or unpredictable, but present and controlled with precision. Like a well-trained guard dog that remains calm and friendly until you cross a line it protects. You need to integrate your capacity for force into your personality. Acknowledge that you could walk away from relationships. You could say no and mean it with finality. You could make someone's life harder if they continue disrespecting you persistently. You have that power available. The difference between you and a cruel person is that you choose not to use that power unnecessarily or capriciously. You exercise restraint as a conscious choice. But the restraint only matters if the power is real and accessible. A monster under control is safer and more respected than innocence without teeth. The innocent person gets preyed upon by predators. The monster gets avoided out of fear. But the person who is clearly capable of force but chooses kindness deliberately, that person gets respected genuinely. This does not mean becoming aggressive as your default state. It means integrating the part of you that can stand firm when necessary, that can look someone in the eye and hold your ground without flinching, that can let someone experience the loss of your presence without guilt consuming you. When you become someone who is kind by choice rather than kind by limitation, people treat you completely differently in every interaction. They value your kindness more because they understand it is not guaranteed or automatic. The moment you stop being harmless, You become powerful in relationships, not in a way that hurts anyone unnecessarily, but in a way that protects you from exploitation. Please share this declaration. I am not harmless. Fifth critical understanding involves recognizing that scarcity creates value, while constant availability destroys perceived worth systematically. When you are always there, always accessible, always ready to help at a moment's notice, you become like air in their perception. Essential technically, but completely taken for granted without appreciation. Think about gold as a commodity. Why is gold valuable economically? It is not the most useful metal for practical purposes. Iron is more useful for building. But gold is rare and difficult to obtain. It costs something substantial to obtain. That scarcity creates value in human perception. Now think about water in the desert versus water from your tap at home. Same substance chemically, completely different value assigned. In the desert, people would trade fortunes for it desperately. From your tap, you barely think about it consciously. The difference lies entirely in scarcity and availability. You are the tap water in most people's lives currently. Always flowing when they turn the handle, always available when they need it, always there when they need you, and they treat you accordingly as something that requires no appreciation because it requires no effort to access or obtain. Scarcity rewires how people treat you at the psychological level. When you're not constantly available, when your time isn't free for the taking, your value skyrockets in their perception. This isn't manipulation, it's basic psychology. Humans value what they work for and chase what feels rare. We respect what costs us something meaningful. When you pull back your constant presence, people's brains trigger a scarcity response. Wait, where did they go? Why aren't they available anymore? Suddenly, you become interesting again. This applies to your time, attention, energy, and help. The moment you stop giving these freely, they become valuable commodities. Gold versus air. Do you want to be essential but ignored, or rare and valued? You cannot be both constantly available and highly valued simultaneously. Abundance is ignored. Rarity is chased. When something is everywhere, we don't pursue it. When something is limited, we become motivated. This explains why limited edition items sell at premium prices and hard-to-get reservations become desirable. Pulling back isn't weakness, it's strategic leverage. When you stop being available all the time, you're not being mean. You're acknowledging that your time and energy are limited resources that should be invested wisely. A master strategist once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be on the surface, but few experience what you really are underneath." When you appear constantly available, people think you're desperate. When you appear selective with your time, people think you're valuable and worth pursuing. The moment you guard your time like the precious resource it is, people automatically start treating it that way. You don't have to announce this publicly. Just become less available gradually, and people's perception shifts naturally. What costs nothing is treated as nothing. Your time given freely is wasted in their minds. Your help offered too quickly isn't appreciated. But make them wait for your response sometimes. Make them wonder if you'll say yes. Make them realize your time isn't infinite. Watch how quickly they start valuing everything you do. Silence as power. The less you say, the more weight your words carry. Every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, you dilute your authority. Every justification is a crack in your foundation. Real power doesn't explain itself. It states what is, decides direction, and moves forward. Explaining weakens authority. When you explain your decisions, you're implicitly asking for approval. You're saying, "Here's why my decision is reasonable, please agree with it." But authority doesn't ask for agreement. It informs. If you tell someone no and they ask why, your instinct is to explain. But the moment you start explaining, you've made your boundary negotiable. Now they can argue with your reasons. Pick apart your logic. Find exceptions. Justification signals insecurity. Watch what happens when you just say no and stop talking. Silence follows. Awkwardness fills the space. They'll try to fill it with pressure. They'll ask why repeatedly. And if you stay silent calmly, something powerful happens. Silence forces others to fill the vacuum. When you don't respond to manipulation, guilt trips, or pressure tactics, people don't know what to do. There's nothing to push against. The strongest people in any room are often the quietest observers, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that words lose value with overuse. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your boundaries. Just state what is true, then be silent. My silence speaks volumes. Emotional autonomy, control of emotion, is control of outcome. As long as someone can move you emotionally, they can control you. As long as guilt works on you, you're controllable. As long as their anger makes you scramble, you're controllable. Emotional autonomy means ending the habit of managing others' emotions constantly. You stop making yourself responsible for how they feel. You stop twisting yourself into uncomfortable shapes to keep them comfortable. You cannot actually control how anyone else feels. You can only behave in ways hoping to influence their emotions. When you're doing that constantly, you're not free, you're performing. People use emotions as tools. Guilt to make you give in. Anger to make you back down. Disappointment to make you try harder. These tools only work if you let their emotions dictate your choices. Become emotionally uninteresting to manipulators. When someone tries to provoke or guilt you, give them nothing. No emotional reaction. No defensiveness. No tears. Just boring, neutral, calm responses. Facts without feelings. Politeness without warmth. Presence without engagement. Manipulators feed on emotional reactions. When you refuse to give them that energy, they lose their power. If you're living in integrity, if your boundaries are fair and reasonable, you have nothing to feel guilty about. Guilt only sticks if you already believe you're doing something wrong. When you know you're honoring yourself appropriately, guilt becomes powerless. Aggression versus violence. Aggression and violence are completely different. Aggression is forward momentum pushing toward goals. It's the force that says, this is my boundary, and I'm enforcing it. Violence is chaos without purpose. You don't need violence, but you absolutely need aggression, because boundaries without firmness don't exist. A soft boundary is a suggestion. A firm boundary is a fact. If your no is tentative, people will test it repeatedly. If your no is solid, they won't test it. The calm, unapologetic no is one of the most powerful tools available. Not "I'm sorry," but no. Not "I wish I could help." Just no. Stillness plus certainty equals respectable intimidation. Not scary. Respectable. When you're completely still, completely calm, completely certain, people recognize they're dealing with someone who cannot be moved by pressure. You can be polite, kind, and gentle, but underneath, there must be steel. That steel doesn't make you mean. It makes you solid. My no is final. From helper to architect, your identity determines how people treat you. If you see yourself as a helper who exists to serve, that's exactly how people will use you. Helpers are consumed. Architects are consulted with respect. A helper is reactive, waiting for problems, responding to needs, proving value by being useful. An architect is proactive, building structures, creating value, moving with purpose independent of others. Their value is inherent, not earned through service. Stop proving value constantly. Assume it exists already. Instead of "I need to help so people will value me," think "I am valuable inherently, and sometimes I choose to help from that overflow." One is desperate validation seeking. The other is generous giving. Mission creates gravity. When you're focused on something bigger than being helpful, when you're building towards something meaningful, people sense that energy. They sense you're not desperate for their approval, that you have momentum and direction. That makes you magnetic. Becoming the villain when you start setting boundaries, some people will call you selfish. Let them. Accepting being the villain in someone else's story is the final liberation. You cannot control their narrative about you. Their story about you is not your responsibility. The selfish label frees you. As long as you're terrified of being called selfish, you can be controlled. But the moment you accept it, fine, call me selfish, that weapon loses its power. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. Refusing to be exploited isn't selfish. Indifference is the final form of power, not hatred or anger. Complete calm indifference to their judgment. When you genuinely don't care if they understand you, approve of you, or think you're the villain, you become free. Walking away is the ultimate power. The most powerful thing you can do is prove you're willing to lose them entirely, not dramatically, not angrily, just calmly. This doesn't work for me anymore. I'm done. And then actually be done. That ability to walk away completely is the ultimate power because it proves you value yourself more than their approval. I honor myself first always. When you apply these lessons together, you stop explaining yourself, stop apologizing for having needs, move more deliberately, speak less frequently, and observe more carefully. People notice. They stop taking you for granted, stop assuming you'll always say yes, stop treating your time as worthless. You're no longer harmless, you're controlled. You have teeth, but choose when to show them. You have power, but wield it with precision. The moment you become capable of walking away, people stop testing how much they can take. You're not weak. You're not selfish. You're just done being everyone's free resource. And the moment you embrace that, everything changes. You become someone people respect instead of use, value instead of drain. Not because you're mean or cruel, but because you've demonstrated that exploiting you comes with a cost they're not willing to pay. You are not here to be used. You are here to be respected.